Welcome to the Ultimate Tolkien Tournament. This is Middle-earth Madness. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final four of the Third Age Throwdown. We've made it. At least four characters have. And all of us hosts or founders or whatever we call ourselves. What do we call ourselves, Striker? Nerds. That's what we call ourselves. And we are here to bring you the madness for 2 more nights. At which point, we will crown a champion of the Third Age. Let us start with a look at the brackets after we welcome my co-host Striker tonight. Striker, how you doing out there, man?
Doing pretty well.
Good to hear. Let us take a look at the bracket, shall we? So, to set up our first Final Four matchup, we have Treebeard, who vanquished Gandalf in an upset last night and advanced to the Final Four by crushing the poor Grey Pilgrim with a boulder. And he, Treebeard, will take on Durin's Bane, the Balrog of Moria, who defeated Glorfindel last night in a pretty good fight. Closer one than Gandalf and Treebeard. You wouldn't have thought, but Glorfindel hung in for, I want to say, about 30 rounds before the Balrog finally hewed him down. Then later this evening, in our second fight of the night, we have Saruman of many colors, mostly Saruman the White, taking on Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor. Excuse me. Yeah, so Saruman last night defeated Radagast to advance to the Final Four. And Sauron defeated Círdan the Shipwright to make his presence felt in our Final Four. That's how they got here. What will they do now that they're here? Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we fight the fights. No one can say for sure. So, Striker, who you like in this first fight? I'll let you predict it and sort of analyze it the way you see it. You've got the Balrog against Treebeard. What say you, young one?
I have my faith in a little bit of Treebeard and mostly Durin's Bane.
Yeah, but which one more so? Which one do you think? Oh, I'm sorry, they don't fight each other. Yeah, so you think Treebeard tonight? Oh wait, no. Now I'm confused. So in this first one, Durin's Bane against Treebeard, who do you like to win?
I think Durin's Bane.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard to beat. Look, no way around it. We tend to root for the good guys in the stories, but sometimes the evil ones are more fell in battle. And I think that's what we're dealing with tonight with Durin's Bane. He is 40-12 in our regular season, as we call it. Sort of a round robin. Everyone fights everyone in the regular season. That's how we come up with all these seedings and numbers going into the tournament, right? So, Durin's Bane, this is about as good as it gets. A 1 seed for a reason here. He slew Saruman. He slew Gandalf. He slew Elrond and Smaug. He somehow lost, though, if you look at the right-hand column, to Samwise and Faramir. And then Legolas and Thorin, you'd expect them probably to, if it were a basketball or a hockey series, you expect them to probably get 1 out of the 7 games, if it's a 7-game series, right? Maybe that's being a little generous. I think in the lore, especially with the Balrog, that's kind of a bad example, right? Because it might be physically impossible for anyone without magic to slay a Balrog. It might be. But, like I said, like I argued before, and you guys have heard me say this before, I would argue that the Maiar have to manifest themselves in a physical form in order to interact in Middle-earth with everyone else, right? And that physical form tends to have weaknesses. We see it with Sauron, vanquished by the Númenóreans, never again able to take a fair visage. We see it with other Maiar, with Gandalf. You know, he is kind of in a weakened form as an old man. The Istari did this on purpose, deliberately, you know, because it was their mission as the Istari, as manifestations, as messengers, to not do the physical combat necessarily themselves. They were emissaries. You got to think of them as diplomats or missionaries being sent from heaven back to earth to interact with lesser beings, right? And to do that, you know, they weren't supposed to go there and just dominate physically or dominate magically all the rest of the beings of Middle-earth. That wasn't their mission, right? So it's more narrow than that in the stories. So the way we approach, you know, creatures like the Balrog, I mean, you read the books and you think, well, Gandalf says, "Fly, you fools! This foe is beyond any of you. Fly!" Right? Only I can take this guy. Only I am a fellow Maya, in spirit. Only, you know, this will be angel on angel combat, and that's the only way it can be. If Aragorn, for example, tried to swing a sword at this thing, at the Balrog, it wouldn't go well for him. So that's how we built the math behind the battle engine, right? And it's an algorithm. It's a lot like dice rolls, but there is a chance, actually, in this imagined version of Middle-earth, there is a chance for any character to harm the Balrog and ultimately, possibly even to slay him. That being said, you look again, only 12 managed to do it. But yeah, a few of them, it's noteworthy. Samwise managed to do it. Samwise is literally hunking rocks as his ranged attack. And he has a barrow white blade, which, you know, quality blade. And he's got maybe the File of Galadriel with a little bit of magical power. That's all he's got. He managed to do it. So Faramir also, Legolas and Thorin, and 8 more guys besides that we have chosen not to highlight just on this one card, right? No way around it, though. The Balrog is heavily favored in this one. But the being that he is fighting tonight has been on a hot streak, right? So I don't want to jinx it, but old Treebeard here has not been messing around in this tournament. Striker, you might agree with me, man. I think you'd have to give him MVP of the whole tournament so far if we were voting for MVP going into the Final Four. I think you got to give it to Treebeard. What say you?
The stats are pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, but if we pull the bracket back up here, man, let's just look at Treebeard's path real fast. So up here, sorry. Of course, he beat Gandalf to get to this fight. Before that, he got lucky and had to fight Frodo instead of the Witch King. Sorry, if we scroll back over. I'm limited in this presentation mode, but here we go. So Treebeard, first round. Well, he didn't fight the first round because he's a 3 seed. But then he fought Boromir, vanquished him easily, fought Frodo, who had upset the Witch King previously, and vanquished Frodo easily, which you'd expect that, right? Then he vanquished Gandalf, and I think it was, 4 rounds? Do I have that right? Or yeah, I think he took Gandalf out with a boulder toss in just a couple of rounds. 4 rounds. So it was pretty impressive. I'd give him MVP if it were me, so far. And so I'm not going to rule him out tonight. He lost 17 fights. Balrog lost 12. But look at his key victories, man. He beat Sauron. He beat the Balrog. They fought before in the regular season, and guess who won? Treebeard slew the Balrog. He also slew Radagast and Smaug. Found a way again, like the Balrog, He found a way to lose a couple fights he really should have won. Gollum and Merry, Balin and Glowing, couple dwarves, couple hobbit-ish things. And, some pretty bad losses, I think you'd have to say. But there is always a chance in Middle-earth, and there is always a chance in the battle engine, which powers these fights. So let's have a look and see what the battle engine says. All right, so as you can see here, the blue line is Treebeard on the graph. Green line is the Balrog. Some pretty glaring advantages for the Balrog. Really everything except, what jumps off the page at you is Treebeard's armor advantage. The Balrog, and most Maiar, the wizards too, they don't really rely on their armor defensively. They rely on spirit, deflecting magical attacks with their own being. They don't really need armor at the end of the day, right? So, yes, that looks like a big advantage for Treebeard. Treebeard's got the crusty bark. 78, it's not dwarven armor by any means. It's not up in the 90s, as you'd expect, with mithril or any, fantastic dwarven craftsmanship. It's 78, though. It's something. And other than that, Treebeard doesn't have a lot of advantages in this one. So, we're going to have to see how it all shakes out, aren't we? And so, I think we are approaching fight time. Are we ready?
Let them fight.
In our first fight of the Final Four, we have Durin's Bane against Treebeard. Let us fight. The first attack goes to Treebeard with his gnarled fists, but he cannot engage the wily fire demon. Back comes the Balrog. A hit and a wound right away. Instantly slain in 2 rounds. And the Balrog wastes no time advancing to the championship. Shortest fight ever. Wow. Record-breaking beatdown, Striker. How we feel about that?
Durin's Bane might be able to take on Sauron. He might be able to.
It's really looking... Holy smokes. Okay. Well then, I think that's not quite a record. That's a record for this tournament, a 2-round beatdown. Now, look at that. He did that. He was forced to use his less favorable weapon, and he did that with his burning lash, and still no contest for the end. So, true to the lore, I think that's probably what would happen in most fights between the Balrog and a creature like Treebeard, It's just, as we saw in the graph, no advantages against a Balrog. And that's how it pans out. I'll still say that if in a 7-game series, as we see in hockey, right? I think Treebeard wins 2 of those games. And I think in the battle engine, he probably wins 1 or fewer. And by that, I mean, it might be, 1 out of 9 or 1 out of 10 type odds that Treebeard would have against the Balrog. But it is a 1 against a 3, and he will win a few of those. Not tonight. And so, we'll go back to the bracket, and we'll go ahead and advance that nasty old Balrog to the championship. Where are we here? Go over here. And the Balrog is going to the championship of the Third Age Throwdown. Wait for it. Updating. There it goes. Alright, come on, scrolly bars. Behave. Durin's Bane is in the championship. Let it be written, let it be done. 1 fight in the books, and 1 more to go. our next fight of the night is Saruman.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
You don't know who Saruman is? Random guy on TV? Well, let me tell you. Saruman is the White Wizard of, well, many places. Originally, he studied under Aule, one of the Maya. You can call him the Angel of the Forge, the God of the Forge in mythology. He's the maker, the crafter, the creator of the dwarves, the hewer of caves and of mountains, of stone and of earth, right? Aule. So Saruman was always the one. Besides Sauron, he was the most like Aule. Both of them were apprentices of Aule, the maker, in Valinor, before either came to Middle-earth. So that's going way back. So both of them learned a lot, of course, from the Valar over there. And were always sort of, you can think of Sauron and Saruman as kind of long-lost brothers, right? Before they had these current forms that you're looking at on your screen here, they had sort of angelic, maybe not even human forms, back there in heaven or in Valinor. And so Aule taught them both well. They both love crafting and creating. Saruman, of course, well, both of them, Sauron and Saruman, both were led astray by this love of creation because sort of not even their fault in ways a lot like Melkor. Melkor for a long time was like, well, why are you going to be mad at me? You gave me the gift of discord and you made me a rebel. He'd be saying this to God, to Eru, to Ilúvatar, his creator. He'd be saying, you made me like this, so why are you going to be mad at me if I smash stuff? You programmed me to smash stuff. It was in the music of the creation. And since the beginning of time, you saw in the creation that I am discord, I am infection, and I am entropy. Scientists would call it entropy, right? The chaos being the opposite of order, entropy being the opposite of energy. And at the end, they're supposed to balance each other, right? Harmoniously. But before they do, and in the process of that actually fulfilling itself, things are messy and it's chaos. And that's what Morgoth wants. That's what Sauron wants. And so it's this weird theme of entropic destruction, right? Everything that the Valar build and spend time creating, Morgoth smashes and says, "Ha ha! That is what I do." And so we call this evil, but I'm not sure I'm convinced. I'm not sure Tolkien would really say that it's as simple as that anyway. But anyway, both of these Maiar that are about to fight here were led astray by their overly passionate love of creating, and Saruman ends up going astray and having this unquenchable urge to find the ring. What he wants to do is he wants to create rings of power himself. And so he's studying all the lore and all the craft of the sons of Feanor and Celebrimbor, the elven smith who forged the 3 elven rings of power, right? His name, Celebrimbor. He's the grandson of the greatest elf ever to live, a guy named Feanor. And Feanor created the jewels of light called the Silmarils, and he filled them with the light of the trees of the Valar in heaven, right? Which indirectly contain the first lights of the lamps of the Valar, which Morgoth smashed down. He smashed down the trees later too. He tried to get all the Silmarils. He had one for a while, and through the events of the Silmarillion, spoiler alert, they get one Silmaril back from Morgoth. And, by then it's this terrible tragedy that it's too much for them to keep at that point. And they being the elves, realize they have to part with this and kiss the Silmarils goodbye. And so it's the same. So sorry, backing up to Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor being Feanor's grandson, you have this lineage of elves, kind of like you do with the Bad Maya out here, passing down from the first age all the way to through the second age when the rings are made, to the third age where we have where we're at now, with the War of the Ring. And it's just funny how the same characters have these lineages on the elven side. Celebrimbor making the rings, and then Saruman here studying Celebrimbor's craft and all his lore, collecting as much of it as he can, while serving on the White Council with Elrond. Elrond also a lore master. Saruman, grills Elrond, and for as much as he can, asks Elrond, can I hold your one ring? And Elrond is always a little mistrustful, probably for good reason, of all this going on. While at the same time they're working together in the White Council, they never would have guessed that Saruman would have straight up betrayed his fellow Istari and his fellow elves and gone completely rogue. But so great was his desire to create things that he decided to create a foul race of his own by mixing mortal men with orcs. And in so doing, he creates the Uruk-hai, orcs that can march in daylight and that are, upright and unbent and strong, like long-limbed, like almost like men, but also the best of orcs too, and this grotesque race that causes a lot of damage in the War of the Ring. Sauron, obviously, he creates, he creates the Olog-hai super trolls the same way, probably even using Saruman's technology, or maybe it was a joint venture between the two of them. They're talking to each other in the Palantirs, but by hook or by crook, they share that sort of shaping, and I feel like it goes all the way back to the days when they were studying at Aule's Forge in the first stage, and they were still buddies. So, long-lost brothers here, squaring off in our last fight of the night. Who do you like in this one, Striker? You gotta cue it up in the battle engine.
I think Sauron might have the lead on this one.
Sauron. Yep, it's hard to root not root against him, but it's hard to pick against the Dark Lord. By the way, we ran this whole tournament last year. Mithrandir was our champion, not Sauron, but Sauron did go to the Final Four. Sauron did the best of all characters, as you would expect in our regular season. He only lost 7 fights. He lost to Faramir. Come to think of it, Faramir, he slew the Balrog and Sauron. That dude, he doesn't mess around. And I think he went out in the first round. So, go figure. Anyway, Sauron lost to Faramir, Gwaihir, Treebeard, and Elrond. And what is that? 3 other people that were, at least on his caliber more so than these 4. These were his worst losses. So, excuse me. So yeah, Sauron, as stout as they come, best record in the regular season, not a whole lot else to say. Saruman, twice the losses as Sauron, but no particularly bad ones. Look, his worst loss, probably the Bad White, who was a 5 seed in this tournament, no slouch. Both, I think Saruman's a little bit better with magic and spirit. Is that true? No, it's not. They're equally maxed out in magic and spirit, both of them. It's sort of as you'd expect. Saruman's spell casting from distance is a little bit better than Sauron's if we look at the character cards here. 88 piercing versus 85 that Sauron has. Let's see. Oh, the better way to do this is probably just to look at the battle engine and see what we see. Yeah, so same thing here, guys. Green line Sauron, blue line Saruman. They're pretty even, again, as you would expect, both Maiar, but some advantages here for Sauron that are notable. Ferocity, 88 versus only 65 for Saruman. So if Sauron elects to use his melee attack, which first line up there at the top of the battle engine, he will, on this particular battlefield, in this particular matchup, favor the Black Mace. So he's going to try melee, and Saruman's going to hang back and cast spells. Which makes sense, right? And so they'll be able to use their preferred weapons 80% of the time in this one. But in that 20%, that's maybe where Saruman's going to have a chance. Because again, his ranged attack is better than Sauron's. Not by a whole ton, but by a little bit. What other advantages does Saruman have here? Not a lot. Valor and piercing. So, pretty much all the advantages to Sauron, but they're not huge advantages aside from armor. Both of their armor kind of blows, but Sauron at least has 50. Saruman only has 22. And then that ferocity and toughness. So, we shall have to see. Are we ready to fight?
Let them fight.
Yeah. In our second and last fight of the Final Four, we have Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor, against Saruman of Isengard. Maiar on Maiar. Violence. Let us fight. First attack goes to Saruman with the Istari incantation. He fails to do any damage. Sauron counters. A hit and a wound by the Dark Lord, heavily hewed right off with the Black Mace. Alright, Sauron not messing around with the melee attack in that one. Saruman has got to dodge better. Let us see. But you are never out of the fight. I have a feeling Saruman's going to be able to do a little something before the end here. Let us see. He gets up, dusts himself off, attacks, hits, does no damage. Sauron counters. Can't hit. He engages him but can't hit with the mace. Saruman, can he counterattack? He hits again. Fails to do any damage. Sauron deflecting the spells with magic of his own. And back comes Sauron. He attacks. He uses his less favorable weapon, his necromancy, but does nothing. Saruman, the chance here. A hit and a wound! A slight smite to even the fight a little. And we have a fight on our hands. Again, 30-ish point advantage, though, to Sauron in the 8th round. It's Sauron's turn to attack. He comes at Saruman. He hits and wounds! Only 4 damage. Saruman counterattacks. He can't even engage. Now here comes Sauron. An attack, a hit, no damage. Back comes Saruman. Istari incantation, no damage. Sauron. Boy, these two names are going to drive me nuts. They sound just the same. Nothing doing there with the Black Mace. Back and forth they go through 14 rounds. In the 15th, Saruman attacks, nothing. Sauron counters. He has to use his less favorable weapon. Saruman's doing a good job of keeping the Dark Lord off balance. He uses necromancy and it does nothing. Saruman counterattacks. A hit, no damage. Sauron, nothing. Saruman, a hit and a wound, only 4 damage, but chipping away. Now, it's going to be important for Saruman to stay defensive here. Another hit from that mace is probably going to be enough to finish it. So he has to stay on his toes. Not so easy for an old man, is it, to stay on his toes? All right, what can Saruman do? Oh, Sauron's turn. He comes back. He attacks. He wounds. Oh, and he takes Saruman down to the very brink of death. Okay. Saruman hanging on by a whisker here. Fortunately, he's got lots of very long whiskers in his beard. What can he do? He attacks. He hits. He cannot wound. Sauron, is he going to finish it? No. Saruman counterattacks. He engages, but he can't hit. Another chance for Sauron to finish it. He engages, can't hit. As we welcome Pattyman to the show. Pattyman, we're in the middle of a good one here. Saruman is on the very brink of death.
I see.
Saruman gets up. He dusts himself off. Can he do a spell that does any damage? Oh. I got no controls. Where are we at? There we go. He engages, can't hit. Sauron counters. Is it enough to finish him off? No. A hit! No damage by Saruman. Sauron counters. Can't engage. Okay, Saruman, he's giving you some chances here. It is up to you. He engages, can't hit. Sauron counters. He engages, can't hit. Saruman, a hit! No damage. And the Dark Lord comes back. Can't engage. They are very wily, these two. Saruman, another chance. A hit and a wound! And he takes the Dark Lord down to 25 to get back in the fight. Now it is possible for the next wound to finish either character. And so, you are never out of the fight. It is Sauron's turn, however. He finish it. Let's see if Sauron can finish it. He attacks, can't even engage. Saruman counters. A hit, another wound. Not enough, but chipping away. Back comes Sauron. He engages. No damage. Saruman casts a spell. A hit and a wound. Down to 18. And he's hanging in. He's hanging in there. Now, the Dark Lord comes back. He engages. He can't hit. Back comes Saruman. A hit and a wound. Upset and a win for Saruman of Isengard. And Saruman pulls the upset to go to the championship.
What an epic finish.
Dude. First or second best fight of the tournament right there. Instant classic.
Yeah, I came in just in time.
Let's pull that back up. What? Holy smokes. Oh, wrong window, guys. Sorry. That is a different battle engine window. I was looking for... Oh, did I already close it? Nope, still here. Yeah, so... Upset win by Saruman with the Istari incantation. Dude, he hung in. He was behind most of the time. And he scores the upset. That's just legendary. Oh, man. Well, there you have it, guys. We say it all the time, but you are never out of the fight. So let's go ahead and advance him in the old bracket here.
Yeah, give me a rundown of the bracket now.
I shall. Did you, Patty Man, have Durin's Bane over Treebeard?
I think I did, yeah.
Yep, that happened earlier tonight in a ferocious beatdown, 2-round fight. Treebeard hunks a rock, misses. Durin's Bane, the Balrog, comes back. Burning sword, slain.
Easy.
Cinchy. Yeah. But in this one, Saruman pulls the upset. And the two former pupils of Aule, the, god of the forge, if you will, the younger apprentice, the less skillful apprentice, ends up being the one to fight in the championship. And our championship will be Saruman against Durin's Bane, the Balrog of Moria. Read 'em and weep. Not too shabby, right? 2 1 seeds, but not really the 1 seeds you might have, picked, or certainly not the 2 1 seeds that were the most popular picks in folks' brackets.
Saruman's win was unexpected.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah, that was an epic fight.
yeah, awesome one. And then Treebeard's run, of unexpected wins also comes to an end in a brutal fashion against the Balrog. The nature of the beast with simulated fights. So, guys, what else is going on out there? We're going to MiddleEarthMadness.com. We're subscribing. We're getting free entries into the next tournament, which will be late May, June timeframe. We're gonna run it back with a completely different tournament format with some new tweaks. So stay tuned on that. Follow us on socials. We'll be making announcements over there. Whatever your favorite social media platform is, we're on them all, and we kind of suck at updating them all right now. We'll do better though. So yeah, go to MiddleEarthMadness.com and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. It costs, the basics package costs couch change per month, $3.79. Why $3.79, Striker? Do you know? It's fine if you don't.
I don't.
Patty Man, can you venture to guess, perhaps?
$3.79.
Yeah.
Well, 3 rings for the elves, 7 rings for the dwarves, 9 rings for the race of men.
Correct. That's right. So everything delivered, right? And so, of course, in keeping with that tradition, our VIP package, if you guys want to subscribe, is $13.79. For we add the 1 ring to rule them all. So again, super affordable packages. What the VIP gets you is pretty much anything that you want. To make a long story short, you can hop on this thread with us founders of this thing and stream with us. You'll have beta testing for the new programs that we're going to roll out, and yes, they are in the pipeline. We have more ideas for other games. This won't be the only one. This is a bracket contest, of course, that we run every March in keeping with March Madness, but also a couple more times in different formats throughout the year. So it won't get stale, right? And you'll get 3 free entries in each of those bracket contests, as well as free play for upcoming games when we roll those out. The fantasy game, Patty Man, you and I have talked about that one. You're familiar. We're going to roll that out. Well, I don't even want to commit to a time frame. These are hard to stick to, I found, when you're working with dev teams and programming and all that. So we'll keep it flexible. But anyway, $13.79 VIP package gets you pretty much anything you want, full access to everything. You get the newsletter, which is sexy, by the way. You want the newsletter. And I meant to show that tonight. I'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, so just check out a little preview here of the old newsletter. We'll pull it up. How do I? There we go. Wait for it. Oh man, the suspense. I know it's just building and building. And there we go. Nope, still not up yet. What's the deal? All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, the Middle Earth Madness newsletter. So the goal here is to entertain you, right? It's not a bunch of long, boring stuff. It is sometimes long. I mean, it's going to vary, right, depending on what we talk about. This particular issue is from February, and here, it was before the bracket reveal had happened. So we're talking bracketology. We're giving you all the inside info you need to dominate your bracket. We're giving you, our top projected seeds, why, how they do in the regular season, and then how they might match up with certain guys come tournament time. And then, of course, no issue would be complete without a little trip to Lordor. So this is kind of how it looks, right? Who's going to be the top seeds? We go through the top dogs for you. In the next issue, we talk about, who your best upset picks might be. We talk about characters that are unreleased yet that are on the way. Dudes like Erl the Young, Scatha the Worm, Haldir, Ganburigan of the Druidan Forest, Kamul, the Easterling that turns into a Nazgul, Helm Hammerhand, who can forget that guy? And speaking of Helm, we go to Lordor and we go deep on Helm and the history of Rohan. So full of cool takes here. If you guys like the Lordor on our streams, you're gonna love it in the newsletter. So subscribe, please. Help me help you. And that's all we got for tonight, guys. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for watching. If you're watching this later on YouTube, appreciate you guys. Stay tuned. Tomorrow night, we finish this thing out with the championship of the Third Age Throwdown. Who will be champion of the Third Age? Well, come back tomorrow, and we'll let you know. Meanwhile, as Professor Tolkien said, you cannot come to the morning light except through the shadows. And where there is light, there is always hope. And you are never out of the fight. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.